Good afternoon. I'd like to ask the interpreter currently on the Spanish channel to commence interpretation of the meeting. For those just joining the meeting, live interpretation in Spanish is available, and members of the public or staff wishing to listen in Spanish can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you are on your cell phone or tablet, locate the three dots, tap them lightly, and put a check mark on your preferred language. Click Done to activate and begin the interpretation. Once you join the Spanish channel, we recommend you shut off the main audio so you only hear the Spanish interpretation. Interpreter, will you please restate this in Spanish?
Sí, buenas tardes. La reunión de hoy va a tener interpretación simultánea en español. Para acceder al canal en español, usted puede buscar el icono del globo terráqueo que está en la parte de abajo de su barra de Zoom y hacer un clic allí y escoger entonces el idioma Spanish o español. Si está usted en su celular o en su tableta, localice los tres puntitos que están arriba a la derecha o abajo a la derecha de su pantalla de Zoom. Haga clic allí para acceder de nuevo a los servicios de interpretación y elija el idioma Spanish o español. Le aconsejamos que una vez esté en el canal de interpretación en español, ponga el audio de la sala principal en mudo para poder escuchar solamente el español. Muchas gracias. Back to you.
Thank you. The time is 3:32, and we'll call this meeting to order. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke.
Here.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Banuelos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Present.
Mayor Stapp.
Here.
Let the record show that all council members are present.
Thank you. And I'd like to announce that consent items 13.4, 13.11, and 13.12 have been continued to the July 8th, 2025 regular meeting. And then I would like to also announce item 3.1, our closed session item. It's a conference with legal counsel pertaining to existing litigation. We will open this up to public comment for any members of the public who would like to speak on this item. Seeing none, we will close public comment and we will recess into closed session. Welcome back, everyone. The time is 4 o'clock.
Bienvenidos de nuevo a todos ahora. Oh, sorry, I need to be put into the interpretation channel, please.
Thank you, will do. One moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We are good. Isidra is now in the Spanish channel.
Thank you. All right, it's time. The time is 4 o'clock, and we'll reconvene in open session. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Okrepke.
Here.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Banuelos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Present.
Mayor Stapp.
Here.
Let the record show all council members are present.
Thank you. We will move on to item 6.1, our report on our closed session. Madam City Attorney. Sorry, I'm catching you as you're in transit.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no reportable action. I did, however, want to indicate that Councilmember Okrepke recused from the closed session based on a professional relationship.
Thank you for that. We will go to item 7.1, our proclamation on LGBTQ Pride Month. Ms. Fleming.
Yes, and aren't we all so proud to be here today to read this really important proclamation? Whereas the city of Santa Rosa recognizes the month of June as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June is recognized nationally as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, a time to honor the history, struggles, and achievements of the LGBTQ plus community, and whereas the history of this community's movement is based on grassroots activism here in Sonoma County. This activism demonstrates the resilience, courage, and determination of many who have fought and continue to fight for equality. The history, rich in triumph over oppression, serves as an inspiration for the LGBTQIA communities, both for the present and the future. And whereas Santa Rosa is proud to be a diverse, welcoming, and inclusive community that values dignity and the worth of each individual, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, or gender expression. And whereas the LGBTQ individuals have made invaluable contributions to the cultural, civic, economic, and social fabric of the beautiful city of Santa Rosa. And whereas the city of Santa Rosa commits to fostering a city where everyone is free to live authentically, love openly, and thrive without fear. Now, therefore, be resolved that on behalf of Mark Stapp, Mayor of the City of Santa Rosa, on behalf of the entire council and recognition of our community, does hereby proclaim June 2025 to be LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and encourage all residents to honor this observance of authenticity and love. And I don't think that there could possibly be a more important moment to stop and recognize our communities here. So thank you for coming out today.
Thank you indeed. And do we have Joy Basonin here to say a few words on behalf of the group? Joy, why don't you head up to the podium up top? Yes, thank you all for coming out. It's nice to see such a large group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Bessinen, and I work with LGBTQ Connection. I'm a youth advocate carrying forth a mission for radical justice and celebrating communal solidarity. Thank you, Mayor Stapp and the Santa Rosa City Council for this proclamation that declares June as Pride Month here in Santa Rosa. As a queer individual and a Santa Rosa native, it is my honor to be accepting this proclamation on behalf of the LGBTQ plus community here in Santa Rosa. This proclamation means more than words can say. It reflects a commitment to equality, respect, and safety in this city. This proclamation honors our queer and QT/BIPOC elders who have fought against injustice and have paved the way for queer youth and adults. The younger queer generations will continue our queer elders' legacies. This moment is for all of our queer community members and the allies who defend us. As we celebrate Pride, we must acknowledge the intersectionalities that exist within our community. Queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, and people of color encompass some of the most marginalized members of the LGBTQ+ community. QT BIPOC individuals face multiple forms of oppression, racism, transphobia, xenophobia, and queerphobia. Indigenous understandings of sexuality and gender have been widely erased under a colonial and imperialist lens. We must not forget the monumental role that QT BIPOC individuals have played in our community. QT BIPOC individuals have contributed immensely to transformative justice and make valuable change for our community and beyond. We must recognize that QT BIPOC voices are rather silenced than uplifted. QT BIPOC individuals need our continued support. We should be amplifying their voices, representing them, and providing inclusive spaces for them to thrive. The LGBTQ+ community is an extraordinary spectrum of orientations and identities. As our comprehension of QT BIPOC identities expands, I hope our efforts to serve our community members will as well. There is a collective hope that the City of Santa Rosa can recognize and acknowledge the ongoing struggle for liberation for the LGBTQ+ community and persist in promoting equality and inclusion for all. Thank you so much, and happy Pride Month!
Joy, thank you so much. And in just a minute, we want to do a photo with the entire group down front. But before we do that, are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Sir, did you raise your hand? Why don't you make your way to the top podium, sir, and the microphone's all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is my second time speaking here, so I'm not really familiar with all the procedures, but I'm at my wit's end. My neighbors are crack addicts.
Oh, sir, this for public comment, it's just for this item.
Oh, all right.
We
asked if anybody wanted to speak, so.
I should have been more clear. All right, we will have you back in just a minute. Seeing no other members of the public who wish to speak, everyone who's here as part of the group, come down in front and we'll do a quick photo. Thanks again for coming out. Thanks again for making your way here tonight. We will move on to item 8.1, our summertime construction update. I believe Dan Hennessy is handling this one. Dan, come on down.
Transportation and Public Works Department. Here to do a very brief capital improvement update as we've just recently started construction season and have a number of items that either had just kicked off or are about to. So I'll be back in August on a less busy council day to do a more complete overview of the capital improvement program and where these stand, but just wanted to provide an update on items that you'll see shortly. Our residential pavement maintenance program will kick off in the coming weeks. With a number of streets on the west side of town. You see this section between the Smart Tracks and Fulton Road and north of Guerneville, south of Piner, residential streets that will be getting a slurry treatment to prolong the useful life of those streets. That'll continue to the north of Guerneville Road, up towards Jack London Elementary School and along San Miguel. But you'll see that work happening in the next week through July. In concert with that, and that I should note, that approval of that contract is on your consent agenda for this meeting. You will also see shortly, this is work likely to get started in August on arterial streets in the same general area of the city, on Steel Lane, Dutton Avenue, and College Avenue. Similar to what we've discussed in the past, these are opportunities not just for pavement treatments, but also for review of safety improvements, crosswalks, bike lanes, and other intersection improvements that need to be made at those locations. So there are a few complementary improvements at those locations that will be part of those pavement maintenance projects. That work is anticipated to be done in August. We've just closed bids on additional work in the Roseland area from the county contract. So on the top there, you see South Avenue that will get repaved next month. On the bottom there, you see West Hearn Avenue, west of Stony Point Road. That's also slated to get improvements. I know South Avenue has been a point of contention with a number of, we do a lot of debris pickup there. We're hoping that kind of additionally to the infrastructure improvement, the aesthetic improvement that corresponds with the pavement will also help lift up that area. But that's all done through the annexation agreement with the county. For parks, we have just agreed to a construction contract for Dutch Floor Park. That notice to proceed has been issued. We're waiting on an insurance agreement to come in, and then you will see work happening out there. We have a bid opportunity coming up later this month for Kiwanis Springs Community Garden on the south side of Kiwanis Springs. And then at South Davis Park, we just had a bid opportunity close there, and we look forward to getting a contractor out there later this summer to turn this green space along the freeway into a playground with some other park improvements there. We also will have the Howarth Park and Galvin Park tennis court and pickleball court improvements kicking off later this summer, and looking forward to getting those out to bid in the next couple weeks. Right now, under construction, fencing has gone up and notice to proceed has been issued for the Colgan Creek project that this council approved, I think 2 meetings ago. So creek restoration, trail improvements, a new bridge over the creek. But Team Gelati is out there. They fenced off the area and have begun working in and around the creek for prep. Some of the mowing and landscaping has been started if you have an opportunity to go out there and see it. That'll complement the sections to the north where the trail and the creek meet, run into the area where the Hearn Community Hub will be, and then to the west where there's been recent development along Dutton Meadow Road and Bellevue Avenue. Other projects that are in progress, the hoist projects that this council helped fund a year and a half ago, that contract has been approved. That notice to proceed has been issued. Again, waiting on insurance agreements from the contractor, but they're ordering the equipment that'll be there, and some of the site prep work has been done, so that is moving. Our fleet division is very excited about that. And then just as a broad overview, as of with your approval, with your potential approval of the contract today, we will have awarded more contracts in 2025 than we did in all of 2024. With the contracts that we have slated for the rest of the summer, we will meet the number for 2023 and 2024 combined by September. So a real pickup in construction and capital project delivery activity in the last 12 months. And our team's excited to see a lot of this go into construction, and our contracting partners are excited to see a lot of this move forward. Before we go, so we're transitioning from the transportation portion of past Measure M to Go Sonoma. The SCTCA has asked us to submit applications for projects that will be part of that. Using the prioritization criteria that we talked about last year, we have 10 projects up there on the screen that fit the criteria, the prioritization criteria that we talked about, being projects that are close to schools, close to parks, benefit kids, on the high injury network, supportive of economic development in the city, part of our climate resiliency and our wildfire protection. So some of these are safety studies or safety improvements along corridors. A couple that I did want to highlight, though, we have on here a shared use path and joint fire break on the Farmers Lane extension area, where we would propose to build a path that would be for walking and biking, but that could also be used in emergencies for either emergency access or for evacuations. So we know that we're not able to fund a full roadway section through there right now, but we could build a path with the support of the SCTCA. So we're looking for any feedback you have about these priorities, if there's any changes from the prioritization discussion that we had last summer and through the fall. But honestly, really excited about these projects. They're at the top of our list in the active transportation plan and the pavement maintenance plan. They serve a number of goals, so it was not hard to come up with this list of 10. But if there's anything else on your minds, then we'd be happy to take that feedback as we finalize those applications. You'll see those in early August before we submit them to the SCTCA. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Director Hennessy, there was a lot of good stuff in there. Bringing it back to my colleagues for questions. Vice Mayor, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. When did you say that the construction would start on A Street or South A Street?
That would be
No, the pavement, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be in late July and August.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the presentation. I just had a question on the fire break portion of this. So I see that you have one over here by Bennett Valley and Kiwanis Springs. Are there any others planned specifically on the east side of town where we know that we've had fire issues before? Do you have any money or funds for that, or do we have any other locations?
We have locations. So part of the active transportation plan is noting additional trails or pieces of asphalt or concrete that can act as fire breaks. So there's no dedicated funding for that, but we're aware of that, and that's part of those plans so that we can use that to prioritize and respond to grant opportunities, things like that in the future. Thank you.
So with your love of flashy slides and big numbers, you did not include a slide showing that our capital expenditures in 2025 would equal 2023 plus 2024. Did I hear that correctly?
Our number of contracts will. So the number of projects we've got out, I don't know about the total award amount. I can check that for you, and I'll bring full set of numbers next time I come. But
do you have a rough estimate? Not exact?
I think we're close. And to be totally transparent, if we are able to bid the bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing in the fall, as we anticipate. All right. Somebody else will be doing the presentation.
Do we have that in the minutes?
Not.
Do we have that commitment in the minutes?
We have all the approvals we need from PG&E. We have all the approvals we need from Caltrans. We're waiting for one piece of paperwork from Caltrans to send to MTC, and then we will be on the California Transportation Commission agenda in August, and that will be our final approval we need. We can bid the project. So.
Excellent. And in terms of a rough dollar amount total for all the projects in 2025, anything in the ballpark? Is it 8 figures? Is it 9 figures?
It's 9. It's low 9 figures. Yeah.
So we're pumping 9 figures worth of money into the local economy at the same time as we're rebuilding our local infrastructure.
We're high. We'd be high 8 right now if we did nothing else for the rest of the year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ms. Rogers.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I just want to thank you for your passion that you have brought to the city of Santa Rosa, and with that, you bring it to your team. So thank you very much for everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it's the opposite. The team does all the work and I get to be the messenger. So thank you for highlighting them.
Well, you're a great messenger.
And it's a good team to be a part of, top to bottom. Just a couple of other small questions. Roughly how many Measure DD funds are we putting into play this year?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'll have to come back.
All right. I thought I saw somewhere that it's in the low seven figures, 2.7, something like that. Madam City Manager? All right, well, I won't commit us to it, but just for the public's knowledge, the public was kind enough to vote in a couple of ballot measures in recent years, including Measure DD, which will be pumping eventually, if not this year, around $2.7 million every year into road maintenance. And those pictures that you included in your slides very bravely, that shows the reason why. And then again, Measure M, the countywide initiative for parks, that again is going to be bringing some additional millions into Santa Rosa to do parks maintenance locally. And with the changes that we made internally and with your leadership and with the great work by the team, all of that money is being put into action, which is really the exciting part of your report, is that not only do we have these funds in the door, but we are putting things out to bid and we are making improvements with our local infrastructure. All right, let's go to public comment on this item. Are there any members of the public here who would like to praise our Department of Public Works team for the effort that they're putting forward? Seeing none, bringing it back to council for any final comments. Looking at my colleagues, Vice Mayor.
Although it's not the repaving, are there any sidewalks going into that same street that we just spoke about?
Yeah, not at this time. It's on our list of we need to get there.
Okay. Perfect, because I know we have.
Funds.
Yeah, I know that on consent calendar we have a grant we're petitioning for a grant, so I'm hoping that just keep that one in mind.
Yeah.
But thank you for doing what you're doing, especially the Colgan Phase 3. I mean, the connection you set it to the hub, and I mean these are streets and these are places that are Davis. I'm renovating that entire park. Those are things that I know the District 1 community looks at the icon places in the community, and to see the change there, it's great, especially when you think about the Dutton and the West Ave and how important that street is to connect them both sides of the corridors. Great job, thank you.
Thank you.
Hear, hear. Other comments, final comments from the group?
I don't know the actual number, but does a whole lot sound okay for you?
That's all I was looking for. Really, that's what I wanted to underline.
We're going to take that.
Thank you for that. We'll add that to the minutes too. No, Dan, thank you very much. Thanks to the whole team. This is all great news for the city. We'll move on to item 9.1, our report of settlements and active litigation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one settlement to report that was previously authorized by council in closed session and was finalized in May. That settlement was in United States ex rel. John Hendricks versus JM Manufacturing Company, Inc. et al. In that case, 15 years ago, the city of Santa Rosa, along with 34 other public entities, intervened as plaintiffs in a false claims lawsuit brought against JM Manufacturing, the world's largest PVC manufacturer, and its parent company. Under the terms of the settlement that is now final, the city dismissed its claims, or will dismiss its claims, in exchange for JM Manufacturing Company providing the city with a 50-year retroactive extended warranty for all JM pipe paid for or reimbursed by the city for use on city projects. The city further agreed to treat JM like all other suppliers and remove language from the city's current design and construction standards that preclude use of PVC pipe manufactured by JM on city construction projects. Because the city was represented by outside legal counsel on a contingency fee basis, the city incurred no attorney's fees and no litigation costs in connection with this protracted case. Otherwise, our caseload remains relatively constant. We have 32 current litigation matters. Many cases are currently in the discovery phase with trial dates assigned to most. A few are in the appellate stage. As always, we continue to try to resolve smaller cases at little or no cost to the city. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. And City Manager Smith, I did not mean to skip over you. Any reports on your end?
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 10, statements of abstention and recusal by council members. I think we have a couple of statements of abstention today, do we not? Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be abstaining from two parts of the budget adoption under Parks and Recreation due to a personal relationship.
Thank you. Any other statements of abstention or recusal? Ms. Rogers?
I'll be abstaining from part for the homeless services program, the budget.
All right, thank you. Noted. We will go on to item...
Mr. Mayor, I will be recusing from item 13. Let me find it. 1313. That item is a combination of many items, one of which includes an amendment to my employment agreement. And now I'm going to hand the mic to the city manager.
Thank you, City Attorney. I will be recusing from 1313 as this is an employment agreement for the city manager.
Thank you both. Are there any other statements of abstention or recusal? Ms. Rogers?
For the minutes, I didn't state why I was recusing, and I am recusing because I sit on a board that I do not get paid to sit on. But in the past, they've received funds from the city, and so I need to recuse on any potential conflicts that may come up with that item.
Thank you. We thank you for your service on that board. All right. Moving on to item 11, our mayor and council members' reports. Do any council members have reports that they'd like to mention this evening? Looking down the dais, Ms. Fleming.
A good time was had by all on Friday as we opened the brand new Windsor station, and we had our ribbon cutting out there. We had hundreds of people come out to celebrate this, and we plan to go to Healdsburg and Geyserville and Cloverdale as soon as we can get there. So we'll be hopefully adding to Mr. Hennessy's long list of contracts that not executed by the city of Santa Rosa, but in the county of Sonoma and beyond. And then on yesterday, we had the great chance to cut the ribbon at a splash pad over at Finley Park, which is really sweet. And right after that, Councilmember Banuelos and I came to City Hall to officially open the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance District, which was a collaboration between the city and the county. It passed the vote. There was only one protest out of over 1,700 potential protesters. So we consider that a pretty good job by staff in terms of getting the word out and socializing it. And just for folks who don't know, it's going to take a portion of future tax increment. It's not going to raise taxes, but it's going to divert some of the taxes, mostly coming from the county, would have gone to the county, and some of what would have gone to the city's general fund, and it will be reinvested in the downtown where the money is raised, and that will ideally enhance our economic engine that we call our downtown. So look forward to reporting on more of that as we get into our projects and we start collecting revenues in the next year.
Thank you. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I'd like to appoint Iris Harrell to the Board of Public Safety and Prevention Tax Oversight Committee as my new appointee, and thank Eileen Bailey for her years of service. She has asked to go off that committee, but I just wanted to publicly thank her. And then I attended, along with some of my colleagues, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, the Punta Iguanas? Puente Eganas, yeah? See? Okay, I attended those awards, and I just want to congratulate all the award winners for everything they got. Quit laughing at me, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Banuelos?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. I attended a chamber advocacy meeting last week. Had a really good discussion with the members around the budget and economic development for downtown. and probably will go and visit them again very soon. Yes, we also attended the Los 100 Puente and Ganas Awards, and really, I also want to congratulate the winners, particularly my former colleague, Doctora Mariana Martinez, and Francisco Vasquez, who also is a longtime mentor for us in the Latino community. And the other thing, of course, yesterday the ribbon cutting at Finley Aquatic Center. I just wanted to thank staff and everyone that came out yesterday. It was just so fun. So many kids and so excited, and you know, just a really positive thing for the community and of course for the 5th District. So thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Banuelos. A few items from me. I was able to fill in for Ms. Fleming on the Sonoma Clean Power Board a couple of weeks ago, and it was a great discussion. The board decided to give Sonoma Clean Power's executive team the go-ahead to explore the possibility of opening up services in Lake County. So imagine that in Lake County right now, where much of Sonoma Clean Power's electricity is produced, the electricity that we use, those residents are not able to access that. And instead, in the rural districts up there, in many cases, they are burning wood, they're burning propane, using all sorts of not very climate-friendly material to heat their homes. And so Sonoma Clean Power is going to explore with various groups in Lake County the possibility of opening up Sonoma Clean Power service there, which would save residents money and also significantly lower their carbon footprint. And then on the 10th, Jennifer Burke, who is not here tonight, our director of water, of Santa Rosa Water, we attended the change of command ceremony at the Army Corps of Engineers in San Francisco, which was fantastic. The Army Corps of Engineers has been a wonderful partner to Santa Rosa and Sonoma County on a number of big capital projects, including currently out on the Llano wastewater trunk line. And so we were able to say farewell and say thanks to the outgoing Lieutenant Colonel and say hello to the incoming Lieutenant Colonel, who looks forward to coming up and touring our facilities and working closely with the City of Santa Rosa. On the 12th, we had a Mayors and Council Members Association meeting. As people may recall from our last discussion here, the 9 cities who are part of the Mayors and Council Members Association, we are working very closely with the county this year on 3 items. First and foremost, homelessness services, then also county resilience, and then finally shared capital resources in the county. Mayor Giudice of Rohnert Park and I will be sitting on an ad hoc committee along with, we believe, Chris Corsi and James Gore, and using that ad hoc committee as a way of working more closely with the county on behalf of all the cities and pushing some of these initiatives forward. And then finally, I want to say thank you to both city and county staff for making the MLK Juneteenth community celebration such a success on Saturday. In the midst of the No Kings rallies, which were rightfully attracting a lot of attention locally, we had yet another packed courthouse square downtown. There have been a lot of those recently. Juneteenth was a wonderful celebration, thanks to the community groups, especially the North Bay Black Chamber, who made that possible, and it was great to have the city be a part of that. So, thanks to all who attended. And with that, we will move on to item 11.2. Oh, actually, we have to do public comment. I'm remembering this week. Public comment on that item. Would any members of the public like to comment on the mayor's and council members' reports? Seeing none, we'll go on to item 11.2.1, a request for an agenda item regarding the hiring of an outside consulting group to complete department necessities for efficiencies. Ms. McDonald, I believe this was your motion last week. Would you like to say a few words? Either.
So I can offer a rationale. A lot of times when organizations are in deficit spending or going through any type of fiscal crisis, it's often a good idea to bring in outside consultants to look for efficiencies within the different departments. So I had spoken at length with city manager, and so I'm placing the motion on the table once we discuss, so that she has the authority to go out for RFP for this particular item.
Thank you. And I will look to colleagues first for any questions or comments on this item. And I would like to turn it, while my colleagues are considering that, I would like to confirm with the city manager just the the specifics in her mind with regard to this item.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor. So we have been talking about bringing in an outside consultant just to look at the structure of the organization. There have been many assessments done several years ago. Some of those had not been implemented. So I had been working with staff to talk about, you know, how are the departments structured? Do we have the right classifications? And some of this came on the heels of us doing a class comp study as well. So I was already in the process of working through an RFP to get a consultant on board so we could have someone come in and assess. In addition, as we've onboarded, you know, a new economic development director, or fairly new economic development director, the question came up, do we want to continue to keep economic development in the planning department? So this was already underway. So, I mean, this motion, it just really kind of, you know, solidifies some work that we were already doing. It's operational, so it technically does not have to go to council. I do want the public to understand and to know that we are looking at operational efficiencies because there have been questions about, well, are you spending less? You know, it's like, yes, we're spending less. Can we be more innovative? Yes, we can be more innovative. But we still have day jobs to do. So it always helps when we can bring in an outside consultant, you know, to you know, assist us with some of this day-to-day operational efficiencies and questioning, you know, working with the department heads, thinking of questions that we may not think about because we're in the work every day. So, like I said, we were already moving forward with this, and I don't know if CFO actually wants to chime in as well. That's some of the work we had started with as well with the zero-based budgeting. So they look at this too. So we're kind of already moving in this direction. You know, it's important for us, and including the CFO, to move forward. And, you know, City Attorney, I don't know if you want to chime in as well. You know, when we come in and we look at the organizational structure, it's just always helpful to have an outside voice and opinion, whether or not we accept their recommendation or not. You know, that's another thing. Teresa, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, because we've had discussions as well.
Yeah, I would echo the same comments that the city manager made. I think it's always helpful to have a fresh eye look at this, someone who may have a new suggestion or something we haven't thought of in terms of how to do things in a different way that may create some efficiencies. So I would certainly support it for all the reasons the city manager said, and would support it entirely.
Yeah, but again, it's operational. It doesn't necessarily have to come before council. You know, if there's not a motion to put this forward, you know, I do want the governing body to know that, you know, we are working towards efficiency, and we will be bringing someone in despite, you know, what this motion is. So
thank you for framing it in that way. And before I turn to my colleague, Ms. Rogers, just so that I'm understanding correctly, by going through this this process today, what we're making clear is that the county, or that the council rather, certainly stands behind the ongoing efforts of the city's leadership team to leave no stone unturned in terms of looking at the efficiencies, our internal efficiencies, and then from a public's perspective, to daylight the fact that this, along with other initiatives, are going on. I'm glad you mentioned the zero-based budgeting process. As we talked about in goal setting a couple of months ago now, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in the city with respect to how we are adjusting our accounting processes and making it possible for both our internal staff and the public to have a clearer sense of where the city funds are going. That's a major operation that's going to be taking many months, and having this kind of consulting work going on at the same time as we continue our ongoing restructuring effort, that's right in line with certainly our executive team's goals, and I suspect everyone here on council. With that, Ms. Rogers, did you have a question or a comment?
Echoing what you said, but also wondering if it's operational and you having the opportunity right now to bring it to the public in the way that you did. Do we really need to put it on the agenda? I would look forward to seeing what the consultant has to say, the results, but since you can already do it maybe that is a step we don't have to take, would just be my.
Thank you for that comment. Ms. McDonald?
Well, I understand the importance of operational and that this is under city manager's jurisdiction. I think it's critical at this time that the public's aware that we're looking for the efficiencies. In addition, there could be additional funds needed, and since we're up at a budget adoption, the goal was to be able to put some things on the agenda today, so it would be part of the current budget adoption, therefore giving her the funds needed to hire the consultants.
Mr. Okrepke?
I'm just curious from a logistics standpoint, if this is operational, do we have issues with this being a council action since that is clearly defined within the charter? And secondly, if it's not, does it slow down your process now that we have to bring it back to council in order to approve this?
I'm going to jump in, and it is clearly operational, but what isn't operational is the source of funding. And so if the city manager needs to have some additional funding approved above and beyond what's in the budget that you may adopt today, that would need to come back as a budget appropriation. You know, when you're looking at an entire city, it is probably not just, you know, penny pinching here and there that then can be, you know, put to something else. And so I'm going to leave to the city manager that piece of it, but certainly doing this kind of thing is operational. You all can certainly voice your desire that and hope that she would do that, but that would be something she would do operationally, but the funds you all would need to approve if she doesn't have them.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Teresa. But I would need to come back with an appropriation request because it would be outside of my authority. So whether or not you approved it now, what I don't want to do is continue to pull unnecessary money from the reserves or the general fund if I don't need it, because I'm going to spend it. I'm just going to tell you right now. So if you give me $250, I'm going to spend it. But what I would like to do, and is to work with the CFO and some members on our staff to actually get the exact cost of the RFP and then just bring it back. Either way, I have to bring back the contract for council approval.
So my biggest concern of this, though, is that this is a future agenda item to discuss authorizing the city manager. So we're going to vote today to have another item further down to discuss authorizing. To me, it seems like it's kind of handcuffing you, and I do get the point of daylighting this and having this discussion, which I think is all great. I just want to be as efficient as possible. So right now, if we're all on board and nobody has an issue with it, then I think you can continue to do that and come back with a cost later down the line versus coming back in a couple weeks, maybe months, to have a discussion about authorizing you to do that very same thing.
I mean, that works for me, CFO. I think that works for you. And we did not talk about the city attorney's department, so I think they also want to be involved. And I also want to make certain when we talk about bringing a consultant in and looking at the departments, you know, we've already gone through budget cuts, right? And, you know, we got some morale building to do, you know, around these cuts. I don't want employees to be fearful to talk to a consultant thinking they may be talking themselves out of a job when that is not the case. What we're looking for is just efficiency and innovation as we work through this process as well.
All right, if I'm listening correctly, it sounds like we might have a consensus moving towards pushing this off to the future when we have a clear sense of what the cost might be and taking this item up again then. I'm looking for eye contact here. I see head nodding. Ms. McDonald, would you have objection to waiting until we have a bit more clarity in the future?
No, I just want to be clear on the direction that the city council is directing city manager to move forward with her RFP and bring back a consent item that approves a budget to do this. Is that what I'm hearing from everybody? Then I'd be happy to not put a motion on the floor if that's what the consensus is.
And just to be clear, I think she has already moved forward. Is that the case?
Yes, some of it has moved forward. We do have a part 2 because we need to talk about the second stage of the Alvarez and Marcel contract as well. So we'll bring all of that back either in July or August for to ask for an appropriation.
Perfect. All right. So we are already moving forward, and then we are all in agreement that if there's a substantial additional appropriation, then it would need to come back to this body to approve. All right. And I see head nodding. Anything else to do on this item?
I think that the city manager and I can discuss offline along with the CFO about what funds would also be needed to make sure we're doing the whole organization, including the city attorney's department. And we obviously would want the city attorney's office to be done by those who are used to doing that kind of more unique operation. It's a public law office. And so we just want to make sure we have the right consultant for that. But that's a much smaller piece of all of this. So I think all that can be folded in to one item to come forward.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, before we move on, let's do public comment. Would any members of the public like to speak on this item? Ms. Carmen?
I do want to clarify, it will not include police and fire. They do their own strategic plans and their own staffing studies. So I do want to be clear, it does not include public safety.
Noted. Thank you for that clarification. Ms. Carmen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, City Council, City Attorney, Clerk, Manager. I have objections to this, particularly talking about it being the public attorney office. I attempted to find out how many attorneys there were with the city fairly recently, like 2 months ago, and I was told there were 8, and I know about the attorney that comes here to all the meetings, but just recently I'm finding out there's already 10 attorneys, and 10 attorneys starting at somewhere around 152,000 and going up to 188,000. That's a lot of money, and that hasn't been mentioned when it's been being discussed about the budget. So I really object to anything more right now being done with attorneys, and they're also advertising right now for a litigation attorney. So it just seems that there should be somebody in their group that can already do litigation, and they should already have sort of streamlined the attorney office for people that could handle various areas or districts of the budget, so that, excuse me, not the budget, of what they actually would be doing in court. So I have real objections around this. It sounds kind of wishy-washy, and the finance meeting that I attended recently was more, now there were 2 of them, and it's very recently, within the last month or 6 weeks. The CFO was talking about a group of maybe up to 20 that were going to be overseeing and making suggestions about what could be done about the city and the budget. And so that was not being accepted real well, but this is the first I'm hearing about something that's supposed to be a consultant, and everybody knows consultants are expensive, and there's not even a grimace of, oh, well, I'll bring it back later, we'll go ahead and talk about it, but it's already in progress. So I have serious objections about this.
Thank you, Janice. Would any other members of the public like to speak? Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we will move on to item 12.1, our approval of minutes. Are there any amendments or edits to the minutes? Seeing none, we will adopt the minutes as they're submitted and move on to consent. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Item 13.1, motion contract award for the contract award for the 2025 residential slurry. Item 13.2, motion Hearn Community Hub Phase 1 design build contract cost amendment action and budget amendment. Item 13.3, resolution request for authorization for submittal of a Safe Streets and Roads for All federal grant for the Sebastopol Road Multimodal Safety Corridor Project and the Neighborhood Traffic Calming Demonstration Project. Item 13.4, resolution approval to enter into agreement with Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District for lease of 6 Gillig hybrid transit buses. This item has been continued to the July 8th, 2025 regular meeting. Item 13.5, resolution approval general services agreement for courier delivery service with Transportation Systems, Inc., DBA Rapid Express Courier Systems. Item 13.6, resolution appropriations limit fiscal year 25-26. Item 13.7, resolution approving a concession license agreement between the City of Santa Rosa and Pony Express Equine Assisted Skills for Youth. Item 13.8, resolution professional services agreement with Moore Iacofano Goldsman Incorporated to provide landscape architectural design and engineering services for Rincon Valley Community Park play area renovation. Item 13.9, resolution administrative cost recovery lien against the real property located at 515 5th Street. Item 13.10, resolution administrative cost recovery lien against the real property located at 1727 Burbank Avenue. Item 13.11 has been continued to the July 8th, 2025 regular meeting. Item 13.12 has been continued to the July 8th regular council meeting. Item 13.13, resolution approval of 1, amendment number 3 to city manager's employment agreement to reflect that the city manager waived any merit market equity salary adjustment in June 2025 and cost of living increases from July 2025 through July 2026. 2, amendment number 1 to city attorney's employment agreement to reflect that the city attorney waived cost of living increases from July 2025 through July 2026. And 3, modification to the document setting forth Unit 10 executive management wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment to eliminate July 2025 market equity salary adjustments. Item 13.14, ordinance adoption second reading. Ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa rezoning the property located at 3150 Dutton Avenue, assessor's parcel number 043-133-013 into the IG General Industrial Zoning District, file number PRJ 24-019.
Thank you very much. Bringing it back to council, any questions on these items? Mr. Okrepke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a question on 13.3. For the city manager and the city attorney, within your best of ability, since it is ongoing litigation, can you discuss how this process plays out, applying directly to the federal government or through organizations like SCTCA?
Sure. There are lawsuits right now pending, and this council at the last meeting gave direction to me to have the city join in San Francisco versus Trump, which is a lawsuit that challenges the federal government from cutting off federal funding to jurisdictions that the federal government has determined are sanctuary jurisdictions. And it appears that the definition that the government is using for that is any jurisdiction that refuses to assist ICE, the federal immigration officers, with their enforcement efforts, which is different than is the current state of the law, and particularly here in the state of California, where such agreeing to do that would violate state law. Right now, we are seeing that there are some requirements that it appears that the city may not be able to sign and still be in compliance with state law and the city's own policies. My recommendation on this item is to go ahead, and if you want the city to request the grant, to go ahead and authorize staff to do that. Staff will proceed with the process. It is our hope that we will obtain preliminary injunction like other jurisdictions have that allow the city to move forward without signing that it will do things that it can't legally say that it will do. And so at this point, while we are not 100% sure we will be able to complete all of the documents that would enable the city to receive such a grant, certainly we can move forward with that process and at the same time move forward with the litigation and request the type of preliminary injunction that would preclude the federal government from requiring that requirement because it is unlawful under the U.S. Constitution and on several other statutory bases.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one comment on item 13.13, but I don't think that it necessitates that either of you leave the dais.
If it is a procedural question.
It is not a question, it is a comment.
Yes, we should go ahead and leave. We can just walk down over here and we'll come right back.
All right, it won't be long.
I just want to say it's my understanding that, that we do have outside counsel on this item should that be needed. Is that correct, HR? Yes, okay. So if that is needed, Burke Dunphy is available by Zoom. Thank you.
I don't think we'll be needing legal counsel. Oh, Vice Mayor.
Legal counsel, or I have a question. Why? Teresa or other legal counsel. It's a procedural question. I don't have to move item 13.13 to a separate voting since they are not voting members of the agenda, correct?
Correct. The suggested recommendation language would be to adopt the consent calendar items 13.1 through 13.3, 13.5 through 13.10, and 13.13 through 13.14. But because they are recusing and have stepped away, they are not voting. You can make that all in one motion.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. And I had not intended to add this much drama to our consent calendar. I did want to highlight that every department in the city has made large sacrifices this year in what's been a difficult budget negotiation. And I'm proud that our executive team, including our city attorney and our city manager, show that they recognize this with sacrifices of their own. This consent item will confirm that they are both giving up compensation to which they were entitled by contract, but they want to show that they also have skin in the game during this very difficult time for the city. I wanted to call out their actions, but in doing so also call out the fact that every department in the city, all of our 1,300 employees, in some way made sacrifices this year and maintained a spirit of collegiality amidst, again, what was a very difficult budget negotiation. And so on behalf of council, I'm sure that all of my colleagues will share in this. We wanted to say thank you to our staff and thank you to our executive team for really setting an example of how a difficult process like this can go forward. And with that, we can ask that our city attorney and city manager return. Thank you both for taking extra steps. And I look to the Vice Mayor for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move items 13.1 through 13.14 with the exception of items 13.4, 13.11, and 13.12 as those have been moved to a future regular meeting and waive further reading of the text.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. We have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk. Oops, I'm sorry. Every week there's one. Let's do public comment on this item before we go to our vote. Would any members of the public like to speak? Ms. Flores, are you making your way to the microphone? Perfect. All right, Adina, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Sapp, and my apologies to interrupt, but I'd like to reply to the comments that were made by City Attorney in reference to this being a sanctuary city with pending litigation. That is 100% false. As you all know and are well aware, I've sent you many emails that a John Doe who was raped at Boys and Girls Club was trafficked through the club, and he was deported and killed himself. So this is not a sanctuary city whatsoever. So I don't appreciate the virtue signaling. Please share the truth of what is happening here. That story is very unfortunate, and I will ensure that that young man receives justice. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Would any other members of the public like to speak? This is public comment for consent, Janice, just for this. Any other members of the public wish to make public comment on the consent items? All right, now we can bring it back to the vote. We have a motion and we have a second. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Benuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this consent calendar passes unanimously.
Excellent. All right, let the record show that it is precisely 5 o'clock and we are on the dot at our public comment on non-agenda matters. We run a tight ship here in Santa Rosa. So with that, if there are any members of the public who would like to make comment on any items not listed on the agenda, this is the time. Janice, you have the floor.
Just want to make a mention about the Open Art Studios, and they've always been really effective, and people visit, the public visits, and people come from other places to see the studios, and the art is really incredible and beautiful. And well, I was at an art studio yesterday, I think it was, no, Sunday. I was told that the catalog that the city puts out is being discontinued, and I think that's a terrible disservice. It seems there should be something that can be traded off besides that, because it goes to the banks, it goes to the corporations, it gets mailed, all kinds of things. Maybe you don't have to mail it, I don't know. But it's a really important booklet that gives you the maps, how to get there, and who's doing the work and what awards they've won, etc. It's amazing, and they've done a really good job with it for, I don't know how long, 20 years at least, maybe longer than that. But anyway, I want to comment on that, and I hope that you will think again about stopping circulating that catalog for the artist. The other thing is that most people, because I talk about this, they know two things happened to me before I ran for city council. One, I had clear cutting across the street from me, and I've spoken to at least, I don't know, a dozen people here at the city about this. And it was clear cutting. I was told by a high up who's now retired suddenly, and I knew she was going to be going. But anyway, I liked her, and I'm sorry she had to leave. But she had told me that, yes, it was illegal. It was top illegal, because I was reluctant to use the word. I said it's unlawful. She said, no, it's illegal. Okay, so moving forward on that, my driveway has been damaged, the sidewalk has been damaged, my house, the brick has been damaged. I mean, I've really had a mess. It's been a horrible situation. The people that are doing this, they weren't even named on a contract. There was nothing. I couldn't get a hold of anybody at the city. There was no zoning enforcement of anything to do with this. So currently, I've got like 24 seconds left, but I also fell on city property, and I haven't done anything else about this, but I now have a violation, and they're talking about charging me $5,000 a day for the damaged sidewalk. So anyway, I'm having a hard time finding the person that would be the connection to get this straightened out.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Adina, and then Randall Locke, and then Peter Alexander. So Adina, you're up.
Good evening, Council. I am here this evening because I'd like to share concerns regarding your city personnel board. Over the weekends, I brought to your attention that one of your appointees, Ms. Lisa Maldonado, represents decision-making regarding important decisions about terminations or wrongdoing of staff. And I don't believe she is efficient in that role being that in previous interactions online, she told me she's a witch, and I sent you these screenshots. She said she's a witch who snorted and injected every drug. She then went on to ridicule my faith. She told me I'm a fake Christian. She went on to ridicule my race. She decided it for me, and went on to also ridicule the way I dress and the way I speak. And I've never met this woman. She did this in her official capacity as a board member for KBBF Bilingual Broadcasting. And as a biracial woman, I have zero representation in this community, yet I fight for everybody. So her comments were outright disgusting. As I just referenced in my previous comment about the John Doe who was deported, there were over 40 Latino children at that club who were molested by the athletic director. And just last week, one of them, a new John Doe, came forward. Ms. Maldonado told me not to speak about this. She told me that I'm exploiting the unnamed John Does by sharing their story that was in the Press Democrat. And so I'm appalled, quite frankly, and I would ask for you to remove her from that position. She obviously has, I don't know, because I'm Asian and European, if she has an issue with that, but her comments were outright disgusting. If it was as a private citizen, she came up to me in the street and said, "What's up?" That's fine, but she did it in her official role. And the ladies at KBBF work very hard, and that is a poor representation for them. It's a poor representation for the city. So I ask you to please have some words with her. I did request records of her comments and text messages and emails about me, and I will be publishing those, but I would like that to be addressed before it gets to that point. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Is Randall here? Randall, just step up to the podium. The mic is yours.
Yes, I'm here to talk about my neighbors. I've been living next to a drug house for 14 years and nobody would do a damn thing about it. Somebody do something. The police know it's a drug house. Code enforcement knows. They won't even come and fix the siding. It's not even nailed. There's violations. They won't even come out. Nobody will do anything. I've had it. I can't tolerate it anymore. It's not my job either. My family's owned the house for 50 years, and we pay taxes. The other day on Sunday, one of them started their car and left it running for 7 hours in the front of the house. Now, it wouldn't be a big deal, except he's got a modified exhaust, and the rumbling runs through the house, and it just gave me a headache all friggin' day. And the police officer, excuse me, said he couldn't even turn the car off when it was sitting there with the windows open. I have talked to Diane, and she has tried, Diana, excuse me, to help me through code enforcement. I finally got a reply. The case has been going on for 4 years for that. The police have been called over 200 times. Damn. I don't care what she does in her house. It's the stuff out front. Our houses are 1 inch apart, and my window is a foot from their yard, where they're constantly blowing this morning, 6:30 in the morning, and they were blowing last night at 8:30. When I finally told them, hey, it's past time for blowers. When will somebody do something? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. I think somebody from the city is going to speak with you offline.
Everybody knows where I live, and they have my address.
And we'll go on to Peter Alexander and then Jeff Lunsell. Peter, you're up.
Thank you.
Yes? Okay. Wisdom of the great owl says, listen to the black wolves howl. Former head of the CIA said, we will know that we have succeeded when everything the public believes is a lie. I see that Petaluma has joined Santa Rosa in suing the president. Almost everybody's political opinions are based on deceptions. For those that know, Operation Mockingbird has been running our media since the 50s, completely. They still have us divided against each other. So my message is to those who are true patriots, those who've taken an oath to the Constitution, our veterans, and those who are otherwise tired of what's going on, that wish to fulfill the promise of who we are and what time it is. They keep jumping around in the media. They say, oh, well, Obama deported more people than Trump ever did. Who cares? Let me tell you the truth. The truth is that in 2007, under Obama, they stopped deporting. ICE stopped deporting. There's now over 20 million people in the FEMA concentration camps. Not public knowledge, nonetheless true. This indivisible group, just like Occupy, is nothing more than a CIA containment operation, so that you can get your yayas out and make a lot of noise and go home and accomplish nothing. We are the most powerful people in the world. I take the Constitution very serious. If it were the law of the land, things would be a lot different. We've been manipulated and pointing fingers at one person or another forever. To take a line out of Vendetta, who more than anyone else is to blame? Let's make it clearer. You need only look in the mirror. There aren't sides. There's truth and love versus deception and greed. It is time for the 40-day strike, for 40 nights, 40 days of everything in the financial world in the West Coast. This will free law enforcement. It will free the law. It will free law enforcement. It'll free your politicians that wish to do the right thing. It frees the U.S. Constitution, first time ever. It frees us into the promised land. We are standing right here on the true New Jerusalem, the promised land, the true Israel. It most certainly is not across the sea. The power is the power of love, of not allowing, accepting on any level this greed and insane corruption. I say it, you hear it, it is.
Thank you. Jeff Lunsell.
This is the New Jerusalem, the promise chosen to grow the gardens of Genesis in Turtle Island. The transition from where we are now to this beautiful place of peace requires elbow grease on our part. Example, Petaluma has a very nice bounty garden. However, there being 40 such gardens in Petaluma be far more appropriate, embracing common sense and self-determination. Veterans, I believe, should have one football field-sized greenhouse to grow greens and another for year-round veggies, gourmet greens, and fruits. Every school, might you agree, should have massive gardens and greenhouses as well. Teaching in the garden sounds nice, yes? Albert Einstein said, you cannot simultaneously prevent while you prepare and financially support war. Therefore, it follows that paying bankers via mortgages and PG&E, both owned by Rothschild, supports war. All wars and bankers' wars, and all wars are based in deception. Protesting, from my perspective, is nonsensical. The indivisible group protests are as effective as Occupy accomplishing what many in the big activist group in the San Francisco Bay Area are run by CIA ops. To do anything and everything, but the only thing that shuts down the monster of war being the corporate store are labor and taxes. The money freeze frame, along with enthusiastic gardening venture honoring both ourselves and Luther Burbank. Works right. Cactus Pete. For truly, I tell you that deceptions are great and the illusions greater still. For if white supremacy is an issue, then be clear. Religious deception of all colors and stripes be 1,000% worse. And if cops are a serious problem, then be clear. Usurious bankers and bar minions be 1,000% worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Go right ahead. The floor is yours.
My name is Victoria Yanez, and I live at 801 Tupper Street, just right across the park here. And I'm active with an organization that has been here for a long time, helping homeless people. That's Homeless Action! It's an unincorporated association of concerned citizens. Now, we have a meeting on Monday, and it was decided that I would be representing Homeless Action! At these meetings, at least for public comment right now. I hope to be up on the issues that you are deciding so I can remind you not to forget poor people. What we have is a lot of poverty, and then these other things grow out of it, like the drugs and crime. So I've worked with a lot of homeless people throughout the years, and I was very impressed when we asked them what they needed. They said jobs. And wouldn't it be great to be able to hire some people without an address, or I mean without any other address besides Caritas, to participate in cleanup or other things that they could do for their own people. So I'm very concerned about what's going to happen given this new administration, and I really would like the city not to forget the very, very poor. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we will move on to our main event of the evening, item 16.1, our public hearing on the adoption of the City of Santa Rosa fiscal year 2025 and 26 operations and maintenance budget and capital improvement program budget. And we have our entire finance team here after many months of difficult work. Welcome again to all of you. Director Alton. And actually, while they're getting set up, just for the benefit of the public, we were going to have a bit of a dance going on here at the dais because of the recusals that were mentioned earlier. So Ms. Rogers will join us later. Ms. McDonald will step out at one point, and there will actually be two different public comments taken and two different votes taken, even though this is all one discussion. Again, and the reason for that is just to deal legally with the recusals that are in effect. So with that, Director Alton, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Sapp, members of the City Council. I have just a few brief comments before we get started here. The proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget before you is the result of a team effort between the City Manager's Office, Finance, and other city departments. As part of that process, general fund departments were required to develop significant ongoing reductions to try to balance the general fund budget. While this was not an easy task, as you can imagine, I I appreciate the analysis and creativity departments use to put forward significant long-term reductions. The initial fiscal year 25-26 general fund operating budget had a deficit of approximately $19 million. And over the past several weeks and months, we've reduced that number by $11 million. So while we still have work to do, this is an achievement that should be recognized. Additionally, I would be remiss if I didn't call out the work of our budget and financial reporting teams. The budget team works behind the scenes to vet all the information before you. A tremendous amount of work goes into ensuring that the City Council has accurate data from which to make decisions. Our financial reporting team has been responsible for helping us prepare the general fund reserve slides that are so important in highlighting the urgent need for reducing the general fund deficit. These employees and the rest of the finance team operate largely unseen, but they are very important, and it's a privilege to work with them. On a personal note, this will be my last budget I present to the council. I've discussed this with City Manager Smith, and more importantly with my family, and I've decided to retire on October 3rd. This was an extremely difficult decision given our current fiscal situation. However, what made this choice possible for me was knowing that there is a solid leadership team in the finance department, and in particular, the two folks sitting with me here. Scott Wagner and Veronica Connor are exceptionally talented and hardworking professionals, and they will continue to give the city manager and the city council solid guidance to move forward, move the city forward toward its goal of achieving and maintaining fiscal sustainability. And with that, unless you have any questions, and I hope you don't, I will turn it over to Veronica to guide you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Alan. As was mentioned previously, we're going to begin our discussion looking specifically at the budget for the Housing and Community Services Department. A lot of the information contained in today's presentation is a repeat of what we looked at in May, so I'm going to be highlighting what has changed specifically from our previous discussion. So on this slide, we are showing two line items of budget reductions in Housing and Community Services. The first are reductions to our homeless services programs of about $1.4 million. This was not included in the numbers we showed to council back in May. This was discussed as an additional consideration, but we have now built it into the budget so we can see the effects of those reductions. The second line item is a reduction of our Housing and Community Services professional services. This is our legal aid contract and our Families First contract, and this was reduced in the numbers shown in May. So altogether, our Housing and Community Services Department is contributing almost $1.6 million of budget reductions to help close that deficit gap. The proposed budget for homeless services is going to be about $4.1 million for fiscal year 25-26. This is an increase from last year of $3.4 million. So the question may be asked of how is their budget increasing year to year if we are coming forward with nearly $1.6 million of reductions. And that is because in 24-25, we still had ARPA funds funding a good portion of our homeless services. So if we were not bringing forward these reductions, we would be seeing a much larger increase. And that concludes the discussion of Housing and Community Services, homeless services. I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you very much. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing the public comment and the vote in different sections tonight. So we're going to handle this portion of the budget right now. I'm going to bring it back to my colleagues for questions on the homeless services portion of our budget. Looking down the row. Seeing none, I'm going to open it up for public comment on this portion of the budget. So we're talking homeless services. If we have members of the public who wish to speak, please move to the podium. You have the floor, Peter.
Thank you, Mayor. I am Peter Alexander. In the mid-90s, with 2 Navy vets, I started the Homeless Mentor Program. And the concept of that was, we thought, wonderful. It was such a good idea that many of the hotels in the area gave us half price off on their rooms for participants. And the concept dealt with the city helping those to be in places to live in exchange for 20 hours a week of work. And that work would be in the form of gardens, it would be in the form of cleaning, it would be in the form of building planter boxes so Santa Rosa could have more roses per square mile than any other place in the world. It would be to help and take care of the many seniors and those with disabilities that fall between the cracks, not having the insurance or the monies to pay for the services they require. I believe that this is an opportunity still. I believe that the people, more than anything else, would love to have a true purpose under these circumstances today that are seemingly more and more difficult all the way around. Also, regarding the budget, in this city and any other, I would advise and you consider to look up Naomi Wolf and what she says about finances in the cities. And is this budget, even for the homeless, is it based on the needs of the homeless, or is it based on the needs of law enforcement and emergency services and the citizens' welfare, all which is important, or is it based on United Nations Agenda 21? The budget can be fantastically added to, because there's not anybody I know that wouldn't like to see the homeless program remedied. And quite frankly, in the hometown of Luther Burbank, well, it's actually Petaluma, the growing of hundreds and hundreds of gardens, giving people something to do that's healthy, therapeutic, positive, supporting the rest of the community would be a wonderful thing to finance and let them earn whatever they can earn through something that the city can find. So, and this could be added on by the public, because the question I would ask to all those that were protesting on Saturday, many of which were homeless also, realize that the very thing that they protest against is consistently funded by them. Paying the Rothschild usurist dynasty by paying PG&E, which is owned by Rothschild, and your rents and mortgages, which ends up in their pockets as well. Let us now use these monies to fund thousands of greenhouses and gardens. Let's just open up the promised land as we are here to do. I am Peter, and I'm commanding it so with the love of God.
Thank you. Jenny Lynn Holmes.
My name is Jenny Lynn Holmes with Catholic Charities. We've been long partners with the City of Santa Rosa working to address homelessness. I've been working in this agency and with the City of Santa Rosa for over 16 years, and over these years I've seen a lot of changes in this field. Given this history, I want to share with you that in this current moment, this is the most progress I've ever seen in the area of reducing homelessness in the City of Santa Rosa. We are looking at double-digit decreases, and visibly, while it is still there, it feels very different from where we were 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we had massive encampments and high tensions with our community, particularly in downtown. Things have improved immensely, and that is directly tied to the hard work of this city and the investments that have been made. I want to take a moment to thank the staff of HCS and the city manager, who have been extraordinary partners in this endeavor. With that being said, I certainly understand the fiscal situation that the city is in. I am not here to ask for funding reductions to be changed. We are in this with the city to make sure there is a long and healthy future. But while we are in this moment of having to reduce services, I also want to know we have come so far and don't want to regress backwards in the hard work we've done to reduce homelessness. Reductions in funding for programs in homelessness and housing does not necessarily mean those expenses go away, because the people in need are still there. Usually the expenses increase and are transferred to other areas like our schools, public safety, emergency services, and public works. Because of that, and even with the significant reduction, our team has worked hard to ensure we can keep most of the services at the same level with additional funding strategies. With the exception of the drop-in center and host, we've been able to do that. However, much of that hinges on federal policy and what the federal government does with Medicaid after next year. And let me assure you, we are not standing idly by and resting all of our hope on our federal government, so we are continuing to explore economies of scale and other strategies. I do ask for 2 considerations. First, with the reduction of outreach workers and a 58% reduction in hours at the drop-in center, which will include closing on the weekends, there will be impacts with more visible homelessness, particularly in downtown and other areas like the Santa Rosa Plaza. My hope is to partner with the city on proactively addressing those concerns so we continue to maintain the relationship building we've worked hard on over the last 5 years. Second, given how significant these reductions were, if there are more, knowing that there is more to come, we will not be able to maintain the levels of services like we've absorbed in this reduction. Homelessness will unfortunately become more visible and will affect economic development and strain other community resources. I again want to reiterate, we want to do our part to help the city. I mean this professionally in Catholic Charities partnership to address homelessness, as well as personally in volunteer efforts to be able to help the city find new funding streams through other areas. I thank you all and will continue to balance these areas and do what I can to help the health of the city and the community.
Thank you, Jenny Lynn, and thank you, Catholic Charities. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on this section of the budget, homeless services? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to council for final comments and a motion. Any final comments? I have one if there's no one else. I wanted to, before we go to Mr. Krepke and the motion, I just wanted to underline again for staff, certainly for Catholic Charities and for the public, how significant the conversations are that are happening behind the scenes right now with all of the cities in Sonoma County and with the county itself. Obviously, we have new leadership at Sonoma County in the Department of Health Services. There are new ways of thinking there in terms of how the county can partner with the cities. There is no desire at the city level to be downgrading our services, because our residents need it, our unhoused population needs it, and the same can be said for the unhoused population within every other city of the county. We do need to do things differently. And that's where the bulk of the conversation is taking place right now, is the city's working collaboratively together and with the county to say, hey, we've got this pot of money. And as Jenny Lynn mentioned, there's some uncertainty around that because, again, at both the federal and the state level. Nevertheless, there is a pot of money there. We've all got the same goal. How can we do what we need to do more efficiently? And the conversations to date have been productive. So please do not take the cuts that we're suggesting here or the cuts that Roanoke Park is suggesting, the cuts that other cities are suggesting, as being an indication that cities are giving up or throwing their hands in the air. Quite the contrary behind the scenes. This is a constant topic of discussion, and we are going to find a way to continue to do good work for the people in our communities who need it, and as Jenny Lynn underlined, for the economic health of our community. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Krepke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will waive reading of the text. I'll move to waive reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa approving the Homeless Services Program budget within the fiscal year 2025-26 operations and maintenance budget.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Ms. McDonald. So we are going to vote on this section of the budget whenever our city clerk is ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rogers is recused. Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this resolution passes with 6 affirmative votes.
Thank you. And we will invite Councilmember Rogers back in. And we will be patient, as I suspect people noticed with the accoutrement on the dais this afternoon. Ms. Rogers is recovering from a procedure. This is a very regal procession. This is how every council member should enter. The following. That's true. We should be carried. That's how it should be in the future. Lindsay, thank you very much. Ms. Rogers, thank you for your patience. And with that, we will turn our attention to the next portion of our budget discussion. Mr. Alton or Veronica, either one, turning it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. The next section of the presentation is going to focus on our proposed budget and primarily what has changed since we last met in May. There were a number of budget reductions that we went over in great detail. Some were already feathered into our budget numbers. Some were merely proposals at this point or at that point. So today, in the next 2 slides, I'm going to take through what has changed since we gave a presentation at our study session. The 2 largest changes were that we have removed the furlough estimate for staff and also removed the estimate to black out a 4.0 truck company for our fire department. These 2 items, well, the fire station blackout, it was very clear from council this was not something to be supported or to move forward, so that estimate was backed out of our budget. And the furlough estimate, it was determined, was not something that could be moving forward as soon as July 1st. That's something that if there is a future in that, it will come back as a separate council item. So removing those 2 items from our budget is actually increasing our deficit because they were a savings that we were calculating back in May. And the remainder of these items are smaller, and they were things that were discussed but were not actually built into the numbers. For example, we have now added into our final proposed budget, reducing 2 firefighters as well as a deputy fire chief and some services and supplies from our fire department budget. We are reducing our city attorney salaries by $12,000. This was not discussed in May, but this is something that was brought up between the May meeting and today of a way to realize some budget savings for the city attorney to forego a COLA. Recreation has increased their revenue estimates by $110,000 because they'll be able to raise some fees in the next fiscal years to close the budget gap. And they are also reducing several staff members and temp staffing hours in order to close costs. In human resources, we have removed 2 positions, a DEI and EEO officer, as well as a human resources technician. The police department, back in May, we discussed removing a lieutenant from their budget, but there was some concerns about that, so instead the police department has come forward with a police officer to remove instead, as well as some services and supplies costs to help make up the difference. In our water department, they were able to determine there's a small portion of our water department and stormwater that is funded by the general fund, and some of these operations could now be funded by our enterprise funds, so $17,000 of budget savings was realized from there. And finally, back in May, we also discussed our exec staff foregoing their equity compensation in the next fiscal year. So the items on the last 2 slides total $2.9 million. So this is an increase in our deficit. We came forward with a smaller deficit in May, but largely due to, as I mentioned, these first 2 items that are high dollar amounts that were large savings we were calculating. We removed those from our budget estimate, so we're actually coming forward with a larger deficit today than we did a month ago. So this table shows the summary of all of the reductions in all departments in the general fund. On the left-hand side, we list our departments and their 25-26 proposed operational general fund budget. So for example, our water department, 3 lines from the bottom, you'll see a budget of $745,000. That's obviously a very large department, but their general fund portion is very small. So this is just general fund operational budgets. When we started this whole process months ago in the fall, we asked departments to come up with about a 7 or 8% operational reduction. So our 8% target is the amount that we were hoping departments could get to by the end of this process. Council took action on our January 2025 reductions back in January when council voted to remove nearly $4 million worth of appropriations in our operational budget. And then the green column on the far right, this is what is built into our budget today. So these are the further reductions that are coming out of our operations today. So the departments with an asterisk and that are highlighted in green on the far right, these are the departments that were able to meet that 8% when you take the January numbers and add it together with that far right column of what's coming forward today. So altogether, from what was moved forward in January and what we are moving forward with today, that's totaling $15,764,000 worth of budget reductions that we are taking action on in the general fund. That's just shy of 7% of our general fund operational budget. So continuing to look at changes from the study session, stepping back from the general fund, there's been some changes in our other funds since we last met. Specifically in Santa Rosa Water, they're moving forward with a small reorganization to eliminate 7 vacant positions and add 11 new positions in their subregional and local wastewater funds. This will cost the enterprise funds about $770,000, but it is included in their new water rate model that has come forward. And similarly, our housing authority has, that separate agency has received updated allocations from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so their expenditures and revenues have both increased by about $125,000 based on those new estimates. And one additional change in the general fund, this has nothing to do with budget reductions, but our Planning and Economic Development Department is opting to eliminate a vacant half-time position in their graffiti abatement program. Eliminating this vacant position, we will take that funding and extend an existing technician in graffiti abatement for a longer term. That position is currently limited term, so we're just swapping the funding to extend one that is currently filled. So that last section concludes all the changes that we've seen since May. And in the next section, I'm going to take you through many tables of all of our budget summaries. We've seen these before. I'm not going to go through them line by line or explain major variances as I did back in May, but I will be highlighting the changes of where we see the effects of what's happened between May and now and the changes we are seeing take place. So this slide shows our city revenues by fund. This is all funds, so not just general fund, but citywide. We are estimating to bring in about $517 million worth of revenue next year. The only changes that have occurred in the last month is our general fund revenue estimates have gone up by $100,000 thanks to Recreation being able to increase their fees with very short notice. And also our Housing Authority, as I mentioned, they have those new estimates from HUD. So still looking citywide, all funds, all entities. Our expenditure side, we are anticipating $553.8 million of budgeted expenditures in the next fiscal year. Changes from study session include our general fund expenditures in that top line item of $216 million. These have increased by $3 million since we last met. And again, as we discussed a few slides back, that's primarily due to taking out that furlough estimate and the fire department truck company blackout. We did add in other reductions, but it wasn't enough to quite offset everything. And similarly, housing authorities' expenditures have also increased due to updated estimates. This pie chart is just a visual of the slide we just looked at, citywide expenditures by fund, which shows that our general fund is the largest fund we have here at the city at 39% of all operations. And we are going to go into the general fund overview in the next section. So today we are bringing forward a proposed budget in the general fund that has a deficit of $8.1 million. This is an increase from what was proposed back in May. So expenditures have increased since we last met, as summarized on the previous slide. But our transfer outline has also decreased by $1.4 million. That is where we see the savings in the homeless services reductions. It is a bit confusing, but homeless services is funded by a transfer from the general fund to the homeless services fund. We don't see that in our expenditure line item. So by reducing those programs, we are realizing the savings in the transfers outline. Still, despite all the efforts of staff and council, we are still seeing revenue and transfers in, not able to cover our expenditures and transfers out that we've budgeted in the next year. So still looking at the general fund, these are our major revenues by category. 215.1 million total is what we anticipate bringing in next year. We discussed in May the sales tax issue with our sales tax leveling off, and this year we are decreasing our budget estimate. That has not changed since May. The only change we see is in the recreation line item of an increase of $110,000. And a visual of our previous slide again shows that sales tax is that largest funding source of all of our general fund operations. So when we are seeing uncertainty with our sales tax, that has compounded effects throughout the operational budget. And moving on to the expenditure side of general fund categories. Again, we went through this in detail in May, so I won't be going through it line by line. But the main takeaway here is that despite all of the major cuts that we have seen back in January and in this proposed budget, our general fund expenditures are really only being reduced by 1.7%. And the reason we see a reduction that is not very high is because it is very difficult to compensate for the increases in staffing costs and benefits and rising contracts. Not to mention our CalPERS unfunded liability that no matter how many staff we reduce, that amount stays the same. So it is a bit of an uphill battle here trying to reduce the general fund operations that as much as we try to reduce and cut, we still see rising costs to offset any progress that's made. And again, another visual, our expenditures by category. General fund is largely people, it's salaries and benefits, which makes it necessary in an environment of budget reductions to be looking at cutting positions. And still looking at general fund expenditures, this is just divided up differently. Instead of by category, this is by department. In the dollar change and percentage change columns, we see that nearly all departments are seeing a reduction year over year. And a visual of our previous slide showing police and fire as the two largest departments and public safety being a significant part of our general fund operational budget. The context here being that in an environment of budget reductions, public safety, it's necessary to touch our public safety departments if we want to see any kind of savings year over year, as difficult of a decision as it is. And on the topic of public safety, we have here our calculations for our public safety and prevention tax baseline calculation. This is our maintenance of effort calculation that is required to show that we are not supplanting anything from the general fund with our outside funding sources. So there was some concern this year that as we are reducing departments, we don't want police, fire, or violence prevention to fall below baseline. But because we are reducing the general fund as a whole, that bottom line shows that police is still nearly $5.5 million over baseline, fire $7.5 million, and violence prevention about $40,000. So all of our departments are still within compliance. Our 5-year forecast now has the current budget built in. So the red box shows our $8.1 million deficit. And we do see from fiscal year 24-25 to 25-26 that deficit getting smaller from all the efforts of council and staff. However, it does continue to grow in the out years. And projecting out our general fund reserves in the first column labeled fiscal year 2025, we've now built in this estimate of a deficit of $8.1 million, and we can see the effects in the out years. Points to note on this slide is that by fiscal year 26-27, that is when our reserves fall under the council mandated reserve policy. And by fiscal year 27-28, reserves will be gone entirely. That assumes that there is no further action taken after today in terms of budget reductions, which is not the intended plan. The writing's on the wall pretty clear that staff will be back again, if not next fiscal year, mid-year, to come forward with more reductions to correct the issues that we see here. The next section goes into a staffing summary. Typically at budget adoption, we've talked about staffing at length, so we just show a very high-level summary. However, today we're going to show you all the details again out of an abundance of caution. There's a lot happening with staffing this year with budget reductions, so we just want to be sure that we cover everything. These next two slides are a summary. These include all funds, not just the general fund. So all funds. We will see that most departments are seeing a reduction as we are making an effort to reduce our budget. However, the fire department is an anomaly. Through the implementation of Measure H, the new tax measure, and bringing on staff funded by that tax measure, they are seeing a net increase. Similarly, with our water department, they are adding staff due to that reorganization that is funded by their rate model through their enterprise funds. So citywide, not just within the general fund, but citywide within all funds, we are proposing a reduction of 31 FTEs in fiscal year 25-26. Moving into the details, these next slides where the tables are all in blue, this is just the general fund. We presented most of these in May. I'm not going to read through them line by line, but I am going to highlight what has been added since we last met. In HR and risk, we've added in that we will be reducing that department by a DEI and EEO officer and a human resources tech. Those were discussed in May, but they were not actually put on our staffing changes slides at that time. And in the fire department, we took out that estimate that called for blacking out a fire station and the staff associated with that. And in its place, we have added the removal of 2 vacant firefighters and a deputy fire chief. In Rec and Parks, it was discussed in May, but not officially on the list yet, a facilities attendant and 2 recreation specialists. And TPW has had no changes since May in our staffing estimates here. In the police department, we are no longer proposing the elimination of a lieutenant, but instead an officer. And there has been no changes in the staffing detail for either PED or CIRO. So the general fund position changes total 55 FTEs that we are proposing to remove from our operational budget. A breakdown of that number is that 17 of those are sworn and 38 are non-sworn. And vacancies are a moving target, but I tried to get a good updated amount from HR. Thank you to HR from last week. And they estimate that at this time of those 55 positions, 16.8 of them are filled and 38.2 are vacant. However, of those 16.8 that are filled, 1 will be eliminated upon attrition. 0.8 we anticipate will be vacant by the time action is taken to eliminate the position. 3 of those positions will remain in their current classification, and although the positions are eliminated, there's a vacancy elsewhere in the organization that they can be moved to in a different program or department. And 5 people, while their positions are eliminated, they will be bumped down to a position previously held here at the city. They have enough seniority that they will not be put out of a job, but bumped down to a previously held position. 8 people will be laid off. However, 1 we are making a concession to keep through December in order for the department to allow time for planning and transitions and training, et cetera. The next 2 slides in green show staffing changes that are not in our general fund. These are in all other funds. As I mentioned, fire has their Measure H that we are implementing this next fiscal year. They've received tax revenue in order to fund new fire programs. And so these 20 FTEs will be added with our fiscal year 25-26 budget. And similarly, water is doing their reorg where they are adding several positions, and any positions we see eliminated in the water department are vacant. So in all funds other than the general fund, we are adding 24 positions. So between the 24 additions outside of the general fund and the 55 reductions in the general fund, that's that net total of 31 position reductions citywide. So that concludes the presentation of our budget adoption. Our recommendation is that the city manager and the finance department recommend that council approve what we are now down to 5 resolutions since 1 has already been voted on. to adopt the operations and maintenance budget and capital improvement program. And we also have an additional resolution to amend the public safety and prevention tax implementation plan for 25-26. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you again so much for that presentation. And we can't state enough how much work has gone into this over the past several months, not only from the accounting and finance team, but from all the city departments as they weighed in on this plan. I'm going to bring it back to council here for questions on this latter half of the budget. Looking to my colleagues for any questions. Anything? Please, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions for clarification. On slide 9, I wanted to just double check. How much does the Water Enterprise Fund take out of general fund? I thought that it said about $750,000. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe our stormwater program is funded through the general fund. It is somewhere between $745,000 was their proposed budget of the general fund portion of it in 25-26. That is not the exact amount anymore once we factor in budget reductions, but it's within the ballpark.
Can you tell me if it's mandated that we pull that from general fund, or because it's a enterprise fund, should that be coming from water departments directly?
Good afternoon, Mayor Stapp, members of the council, Scott Wagner, Deputy Director of Finance. I want to add a clarifying point to your question. Councilmember McDonald, thank you for the question. In that the Santa Rosa Water Department oversees the stormwater function, but it's important to differentiate when we think of water. What I think of is really wastewater in our water function of delivery. This is really separate from that. And stormwater, a long time ago, was a general fund operation fully. And a long time ago, we went through a process of placing charges, which the council approves each year to cover the stormwater activities of the city. But there was still a remainder of those activities that remained. Really what the water department does is they oversee that general fund portion. So when we see Santa Rosa Water on this slide, my mind always goes to enterprise fund, but that is not the case here. It is truly a general fund function. Does that help?
That is very helpful. Thank you for clarification on that. Under the special reserves on slide 13 and 14, I just want to quickly go over, it says special reserves fund, and there was a large increase and then a large outgo. Can you just tell me briefly what those special reserve funds are caused from? I believe they're taxes, but I just want to make sure that it's clear to the public.
So thank you for that question. The big jump there, if Veronica can find it, it's the revenues by fund.
Mm-hmm. Special revenue funds. Sorry, I said reserves. I apologize. Special revenue funds goes from 34 million to 44 million, a 30% jump. And then on the following slide, expenditures also almost equal the same, but I just want to make sure we're clear where it's coming from.
Great question. It's the Measure H. It's us implementing Measure H, the countywide fire measure. So that is a special revenue fund. As we've talked about, we've made sure to separate those revenues and those expenditures away from our general fund in accordance with the measure.
In the future, just if you could even put like a clip note or something of what those funds are for, I think that would be helpful, just because it shows an increase when we're showing everything else as a decrease, and where that's coming from the public, specifically on measures that they've passed for safety. As far as the vacant positions, and I'm not sure if this is the time, my understanding, or maybe I'm just going to say it, doesn't matter if it's the time. My understanding was a direction from council, specifically under public safety for our police officers, that we were retaining one of the positions, and I see an additional position put here. And as I've been pretty clear, I'm not in favor of any cuts to public safety. Even through attrition, I'm not as happy about them. But there's a 9th position that's being recommended tonight. So is that something that was added after what I understood as council direction to retain that and increase the deficit? And when was that decision made?
Through the mayor, Councilwoman McDonald. So the question on the table had to deal with the lieutenant. So myself and the chief worked behind the scenes to see if they could come up with additional exchanges instead of the lieutenant. So they didn't want the lieutenant. So the chief and I went back, and what he proposed was some additional, I think there was some vehicles, some other supplies, and another officer. I did ask the chief, I said, can you find any other savings within your table of organization, any supplies, any travel? So what he could come up with was a 9th officer. So that's why that is being proposed at this time.
Well, I appreciate the explanation from you, City Manager. I guess my concern or my confusion is, my understanding was that we were not making an additional cut, that we were going to be increasing the deficit, that percentage, and that we would not be going back to that department for additional cuts. So in lieu of that, and I don't think it's the appropriate time till we go through things, I will be making a motion tonight to not have that reduction of the 9th officer. So it will change the budget at the end, but we'll go forward with discussions for now. But I just wanted on the table that that's coming forward from me.
Looking to colleagues for any additional questions. I've got a few of my own. All right, mine are all pretty big picture, and it wouldn't be a budget conversation if I didn't try to do some back of the envelope math. So I think there's a few important points to underline for the public, and one of those points is the scale of cuts that the city has made last year with the proposed cuts this year, assuming that they go through in something like their current form, and with the scale of cuts that we are likely to have to discuss next year. That slide that lays out the $17.1 million deficit that we're still going to be facing next year, even if we make the proposed cuts this year, is an important number. So I did a little addition here, and if I remember correctly, we had $4 million in cuts last year, in straight cuts, not including the one-time funds that we clawed back in order to cover our deficit. We're talking about $11.8 million this year, and we're potentially talking about $17.1 million in cuts next year. Again, this needs to be discussed, it needs to be voted, but it's on the table hypothetically. If you add those numbers together, over the course of 3 years, we're talking about making a total of $32.9 million in cuts, which, based on my math, is roughly a 15% cut to our general fund budget. I'm looking for nodding heads from accounting and finance, because sometimes I make mistakes with my quick math. But am I in the ballpark there?
We'll put it in the a lot category, but yeah, I think it's right.
Yes, and I will add, Mayor, if you'll
please
allow me, is that's a critical measurement point, because I think where I've seen that math go wrong sometimes is taking the city's total budget versus specifically the general fund, and that's where our focus is, that's where our structural deficit is. So thank you for that math.
All right, good. I'm glad I'm in the ballpark, because I think it's good. I know we have our Chamber of Commerce in the House. I'm sure the Press Democrat is watching. We've had members of the general public watching, and it's going to be important to emphasize this figure going forward, that the city is making the changes that we need to make. That, again, so many other organizations locally are making right now or have made in the recent past. But the city is doing its work to cut our expenditures, and assuming that we do our job this year, and assuming that we do our job next year, then in combination with what we've done in the year previous, we are making a 15% cut to our general fund budget, which is sizable for any organization. It is never pleasant. All of us would prefer to be adding here, especially to public safety, but that's just not the fiscal context in which we're living right now. My second question is just a reiteration of a point that we made previously, because it's a point that comes up a lot in public discussion. So we are shrinking down to 1,276 staff. Do I remember that correctly? $1,272. What's the number?
1,276.15.
There we go. Even more specific. At our peak, at the city's peak, which I think was in 2008, what was the staffing number? I've got a rough number of 1,350 in my head. Am I in the ballpark there as well? I don't need an exact number.
It's about, yeah, 1320, 1350.
Okay, so we're talking about being 5% down in terms of staff count from 2008, from 17 years ago. At the same time as we're cutting our budget, again, proposed cuts through next year of 15%, while at the same time our city population has grown 15% plus since 2008. So we have more people that we need to serve, more services that we're providing, flatlining revenues, and we've got fewer staff in which to do this with. That's going to be a key picture for the city to understand, and I know that many of us on the dais have already been active in the community, educating our fellow residents about the reality of the situation here. And that's going to be an important thing for us to continue to do. And I'm looking at Ananda. I'm putting her on the spot because we're going to need the chamber. We're going to need the business community to help us with this as well. And so many of our community groups have already leaned in. And to our Press Democrat reporters watching online, thank you already for the education that you've been doing. We're certainly going to be talking more in the future as well. But those numbers, the numbers that we just walked through, I think are particularly important. One bit of good news from, again, the proposed actions that we're taking here today comes from the chart, the very nicely designed chart that goes through the minimum reserve, or the reserves that we have over the next few years. And if I read that chart correctly, it looks like that if we go through with the proposed actions today, then we've achieved the goal that we discussed during our budget study session of giving ourselves an extra year to put ourselves on a stable financial footing. We were, prior to these cuts, talking about having only 2 years at most of reserves that we were able to utilize. Now it looks like we're up to a third year at least, giving us an extra year to put ourselves on a more stable footing. Am I reading that correctly?
I would agree with your characterization, Mayor. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Well, that's a win for the city right now during this difficult time, and it's a big part of the conversation that we're having here today, a big part of the goal. Final question from me. What are the next steps in terms of evaluating the actuals in terms of revenues and expenditures that are coming in against our proposed budget? What are the next steps in terms of when we will be doing future budget study sessions, future evaluations at the council level? Obviously, we are not going to wait 12 months to review things again. This is going to be there'll be a regular drumbeat of discussions in the months to come. And either from the city manager or from CFO Alton, what's the trajectory as you see it over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I can give you the, excuse me. Thank you, Mayor, for that question. I can give you the rough timeline of where we are from a financial statement standpoint. So we'll start closing our books through July and August into September. Where we'll complete our financial statements and get those to the auditors and be able to then be back in October. So we're looking at October for a study session where we go over those year-end numbers. In the meantime, our budget process has moved from 6 months to 12 months essentially, as we go through the different things that the city manager has talked about in terms of how we structure our budget and our organization and how all that gets fit into the 26-27 budget that you'll see next May. So in short, we'll go through the process of closing the books, starts in July. The results of that will be in October in study session here. Depending on those results, and we have an idea of what they may look like, but it's always good to rely on the numbers that come back from the auditors as we finish that process up. We may need to come back with a mid-year item to either make reductions then or make reductions through the 26-27 budget.
Yeah, thank you for that, Alan. And in addition to that, so we will have the Budget Advisory Committee. We are actually working on the applications now. I will be working with Sierra and HR. We'll have a working group. They can, for the labor can either participate on the citywide, the external working group, or we can have an internal working group. I know labor is already stretched working on class and comp and some other things, but we'll have several internal working groups, and then I'll have a separate working group just for the directors themselves. But when we go back as well, the directors will begin, again, sharpening their pencils, looking for efficiencies, and as we work with the consultant to find some innovative ideas on how we're structured and staffed. So we will probably start working tomorrow.
Thank you for that. Could you highlight again the Budget Advisory Group and how important that is with respect to bringing in community voices?
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, the purpose of the Budget Advisory Group is to be transparent. One of the things that we've heard is that there's not enough transparency, whether it's the budget process or whether it's any process. And we want to make certain that the community has some input. Community usually has a lot more ideas than we do. You know, businesses and other entities operate a little more different than government does. So we want to give them an opportunity to bring some solutions and some suggestions to the table as well. And we also want to open up our books for the community. A lot of times, you know, I often hear Councilwoman McDonald say, hey, it's not driven down to the line item, right? And we see all of that behind the scenes. So we think that that's important for the public to understand and to see what we see. And we also want to continue to open up the books and be a little more detailed for our union partners. You know, we've heard them loud and clear, and we do want them to be a part of the solution as well.
Thank you for that. All right, no more questions from me. Let's open it up to public comment on this section of the budget discussion. And actually, we have a few names already. Why don't we start with Matt Finnegan, and then Patty Steffens, and Ananda Sweet.
Mayor, council members, Matt Finnegan from Teamsters Local 856. I help represent about 600 of those 1,300 or so employees. I want to go over a couple of things, and I'll probably run out of time here, but these aren't just FTEs or placeholders we're talking about. These are members of the union. These are hardworking people who work for you at the city and work for the community. So I want to actually tell you who they are just by name and where they work. So Sonia Lawton, who's a Deputy Emergency Preparedness Coordinator, she's going to lose her job if you pass the budget as it's proposed. Sean Cara is the Zero Waste Coordinator. They will lose their job if you pass the budget as proposed. Jen Santos, Deputy Director of the Parks, she will also lose her job if you pass the budget as proposed. Lou Kirk, the Assistant Building Official, will lose his job if you pass the budget. Now, those are just the people who are going to lose their jobs outright with the way the budget's proposed. There's a whole collection of people who are going to be demoted because their jobs are either eliminated or someone above them's job was eliminated, so therefore they have to be bumped back or go to a position that they previously held. And so Jennifer DeWitt will be demoted. Tara Telemonte will be demoted. Carrie Wilson will be demoted. Melissa Hughes will be demoted. Doug Williams will be demoted. And Catherine Osaguera will be also demoted. So I'm running out of time, but I got to tell you guys, as we're meeting over these budget cuts and laying off people, you are hiring people in the same departments that you're laying people off. So I would propose to you that doesn't make sense. And I would say, through my experience representing people all over Northern California, that's not normal, right? That may be part of the zero-based budgeting idea or theory, but the very first thing that you need to do is stop hiring people before you start disrupting people's lives and eliminating their jobs. So what I want to ask you to do is pass a budget that doesn't include laying off people who are going to lose their job. For my union, that's those first 4 people. The other people, I'm sure, would rather not be demoted. That'd be great too. And there's a couple other people that are changing departments and whatnot. But I think it's very easy for you to take those 4 people and not eliminate their jobs. And I would ask you guys to do that today. I also want to mention, we don't even know exactly how many vacancies and people are being hired at the current moment. And I would ask that whatever you do when you're eliminating any of these people's jobs, that you give them at least 90 days to find a new job and not implement it in the next 60 days.
Thank you, Matt. We're going to go to Patty, Ananda, and then Kim Hawkins.
Good afternoon, Mayor Stapp, Vice Mayor Alvarez, council members, and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for your continued service and leadership during these challenging budget discussions. My name is Patricia Seffens, and I serve as the president of the Santa Rosa Police Management Association. I am here to respectfully urge the council to reconsider the proposed elimination of the 9th police officer position, a position that is currently unfilled solely due to last year's hiring freeze. This is not a redundant or unnecessary position. It is a critical resource that, if cut, will have real and immediate impacts on public safety in our community. If we are not allowed to fill this role, the body will have to come from somewhere, and the consequences will be felt citywide. It could mean pulling from our special enforcement team, which has already taken 42 illegal firearms off the streets just since January, more than they did all of last year. Each one of those firearms is a potential shooting or homicide prevented. It could mean further reducing our downtown enforcement presence, leaving our core and surrounding neighborhoods more vulnerable to safety concerns and blight, particularly related to the unhoused population. It could mean fewer DUI investigators and motor officers in our traffic division, increasing the risk of deadly collisions on our street. Or it could mean leaving additional patrol beats unfilled, vacant, leading to longer response times and reduced services for our residents citywide. These are not abstract trade-offs. They are real impacts on real people. We understand the difficult fiscal decisions you face, but we ask that you prioritize public safety and allow us to keep this vital, very important position. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ananda.
Mayor Stapp, Vice Mayor Alvarez, council members, and city staff. My name is Ananda Sweet. I'm the CEO of the Santa Rosa Metro Chamber of Commerce. I predominantly want to acknowledge the countless hours that city staff and council have devoted to this process and to weighing difficult trade-offs, recognizing that there was no responsible or alternative option to significant cuts and no possible outcome that could satisfy everyone. The personal toll and gravity of those decisions have not gone unnoticed, and I deeply appreciate the care, seriousness, and compassion you've brought to this process. I also appreciate your strong desire and commitment to focus on economic development, and I want to emphasize that these budget cuts can open an opportunity to unite around a more effective and prosperous future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for acknowledging in your comments about the opportunity and need to work with the business community and the Chamber of Commerce. The Santa Rosa Metro Chamber stands ready to work with you in partnership to stimulate inclusive economic growth, laying the foundation for thriving new and existing businesses, a vibrant downtown, increased local spending and tourism dollars, and a diversified tax base, all key levers to strengthen our community's resilience and to build a stronger, more vibrant Santa Rosa. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Kim, and then Jenny Lynn, did you wish to speak again? All right, we'll do Kim and then Tommy.
Hello, my name is Kim Hawkins, and this is my husband, Chad. We have owned a small business in Santa Rosa for over 20 years. This was our sole source of income as we raised 4 boys living here in Santa Rosa. We are located off West 3rd Street, a couple blocks from downtown. Over the last 5 to 7 years, we have struggled with the unhoused and mentally ill population. The constant influx of people lighting fires in our parking lot, leaving trash, human waste, stealing our electricity and water, destroying our property, has cost us thousands of dollars. We needed to put grates on our skylights due to people on the roof of our building, put in metal roll-up doors to protect the glass storefront at night, put in cameras and security lights so we can keep an eye on things at nights and on weekends, put cages on all our exterior electrical plugs and water spigots, replace signage due to destruction, and repaint parts of our building due to tagging and graffiti multiple times. It has created times where I felt unsafe to be at my own business without my husband present. With the expansion of the downtown enforcement team through the Santa Rosa Police Department, we have seen impactful change. We have had someone we could call to help us remove these unwanted guests. It has reduced our cost of weekly cleanup. It has created a presence to keep unwanted people away. With the reduction of this team, or a reduction in the police force in general, I fear our ongoing issues will increase once again. We feel your action in reducing officers is counterproductive. In a time where you need to be focused on creating opportunities to help businesses thrive, you are reducing their support. You already have an issue with many commercial buildings sitting vacant. People don't want to start new businesses when they know they will have to deal with these destructive issues when it's already tough enough to be a small business owner. You should be doing everything in your power to support existing businesses and encourage new businesses to want to set up shop in Santa Rosa. Instead of your mindset being cut, let's figure out a way to build and grow. We want to be a city that thrives. We both feel that any cuts to first responders are ill-advised. The community has seen far too many violent events over the last several years and the first part of this year. We've seen low-income housing structures being built consistently, 2 in our direct vicinity. It is unfair for you to expect the people that live and work to continue to invest in the city if the city won't invest in the community.
Thank you, Kim. Tommy.
Thank you, Mayor Stapp and members of City Council. I've been a public servant for the City of Santa Rosa for more than 2 decades. My family and I have a vested interest in this city. The police department has been a team player in everything we've been asked to do, even to the point of our own operational demise. We constantly do more with less. It has become a motto. Our previous staffing studies have outlined this. You are faced with a difficult decision tonight. The police department is slated to lose 8 police officers, possibly a 9th police officer. These cuts cannot all be absorbed in the patrol division by those officers answering calls for service and answering calls in progress. These cuts will affect the Investigations Bureau, also known as our detectives. With the cuts of 8 officers, I will lose a detective. That detective will likely come from our domestic violence and sexual assault team, which is already one of the busiest detective teams when in terms of call-outs and volume of investigations. Should the police department be asked to cut this 9th police officer, I will have no other option but to collapse our proactive special enforcement team, which has already eclipsed the number of firearms it seized last year, and it's only June. Due to the team size and supervision, making cuts elsewhere is not safe or efficient. Our community is safer with these investigative teams, including the special enforcement team. As I mentioned, the special enforcement team has already exceeded the number of guns seized last year, and the statistics from 2024 reaffirm their success. 69% crackdown on illegal ghost guns with a 129% rise in seizures. 59% reductions in shooting events, 71% decrease in homicides overall, with 0 gang-related homicides, 55% increase in firearm seizures from juveniles, 56% reduction in calls for service involving shootings. Please do not cut the additional 9th police officer. Let us be team players and stick with the agreed upon original proposal of 8 police officers and 4 professional staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? All right, I'm going to bring it back to council for any final comments, and then I believe at a certain point, Ms. McDonald has to vacate for the vote. Madam City Attorney, am I correct about that?
At this point, Councilmember McDonald should go ahead and leave. You all can discuss the recreation and parks components.
Okay.
Take action on those items. There are multiple resolutions. And then when you're finished that part, we can invite Councilmember McDonald to come back.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. So let's start with Rec and Park. Mr. Krupke.
Mayor, can we do a 5-minute recess, please?
Absolutely. Let's take 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 6:30. Thanks to everyone for their patience. We will reconvene here. Madam City Clerk, we still need to call the roll, correct? Let's call a roll whenever you have a moment.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers? Councilmember Okrepke?
Here.
Councilmember McDonald has stepped away due to her recusal, but is present. Councilmember Fleming?
Here.
Councilmember Banuelos? Here. Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Present.
Mayor Stapp?
Here.
Let the record show all council members are present.
All right. Again, in this segmented process, we've brought it back to council for a motion and any final comments about the rec and park portion of the budget. Mr. Okrepke? Oh, excuse me. Ms. Fleming?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We have, I think, for the listening public, 6 more motions, 6 more items here. But before we take any that involve a reduction in force, which is, I just wanted to make comments about what that actually means for people in their lives. We say reduction in force, we say layoffs, but the truth that we all know is that means that we will be sending people home in just a few weeks who won't have jobs here with us. And it's a loss for them, it's a loss for our family, for their families, it's a loss for us here at the city. And I just wanted to acknowledge here that I take this really seriously, that I know all of my colleagues take this really seriously, and that I'm committed to looking for ways that we can both stabilize our budget and reduce the upheaval that comes to us operationally, but moreover for the families and the individuals that are impacted, that this is something that we take really seriously, that we care about deeply, and that we wouldn't be doing if we had any other good options. So I know that can't help much, but I just figured it was important to say it rather than to not acknowledge the seriousness of the situation.
Thank you for that. Ms. Banuelos?
Thank you, Mayor. I just really want to second what Councilmember Fleming said. None of this is taken lightly. I so appreciate all the work that's been done by staff, and this has been really, really difficult. And what I would say is having, even in my own work, colleagues who've been let go and going through this process. So I've watched a lot of people cry, and I just want to say I really feel for all of you that may be affected. I'm hoping that there'll be other opportunities for folks, whether it's with the city or even better opportunities with other organizations. As Councilmember Fleming said, this is, if there were another way to do this, I would welcome it. And I just want to say I do feel deeply, not just because I've been through it myself, and I know this is really hard because it affects your life so much. So just to say, this is not, hopefully, I know this sounds horrible, one door closes, another door opens, but I really do believe that can happen for a lot of folks. So, and that is what I'm hoping for. So I don't go into this lightly, I know none of us do, but I do think that there may be other opportunities in the near future because so many of you are so talented and so skilled at what you do. So, thank you.
Ms. Rogers.
I won't repeat it, but I think that it is the same for all of us. It's very difficult when you read the names because they are people, and I know that they have families. And we knew that before we came up here tonight, but it hits in a different way when you know the names. So I can just say that I think we are going to be making some cuts tonight, and I hope that we can start to restructure things and do things a little bit differently, not saying that we're doing them wrong, but just saying that it never feels good when we have to lay off people. So that is a commitment that you have from me, that we will start to really not leave any rock, any stone unturned, and really look at ways that we can be more efficient here at the city in what we do. So thank you, Mayor, for that opportunity.
Thank you all for making those comments. All of us here on the dais have worked with the individuals affected for years. None of us want to be doing this. We all want to get back to a time when we're investing in the city, when we're growing. That's the goal of this. It's going to take us a few years, but we're going to get there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Krepke.
All right, I'll move to waive reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa approving the Recreation and Parks budget within the fiscal year 2025-26 operations and maintenance budget and capital improvement program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Rogers. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald has recused. Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this resolution passes with 6 affirmative votes.
Thank you. And Madam City Attorney, I think we can invite Councilmember McDonald back in at this time.
I think we have one other resolution that pertains to Recreation and Parks from which she would be recused. And then once we have a vote there, then Councilmember McDonald can come back.
I'm back in. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, I'll move to waive reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled A Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa amending the city salary plan and schedule for recreation and parks by eliminating, reclassifying, or adding positions and authorizing the city manager to implement these changes, included the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, subject to the completion of the meet and confer process.
Second.
We have a motion and a second again by Ms. Rogers.
Thank you, Councilmember Rogers. Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald has recused. Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this resolution passes with 6 affirmative votes.
Thank you. Now I believe we can invite Councilmember McDonald back in.
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
She arrives without a procession this time. Mr. Okrepke, back to you.
I'll move to waive reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa approving the budget for the City of Santa Rosa for fiscal year 2025, the capital improvement program budget for fiscal year 2024, and establishing reserves for the 2025-26 fiscal year, while also removing the 9th officer cut.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. McDonald.
I'm sorry, what was it?
The point of clarification, 8.
So you're bringing it down to 8 officers, or you're doing 9 officers?
Removing the recommended 9th officer.
You're removing it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the mayor, can I ask for clarification? Did you say through the CIP budget? Did you read the title of the resolution? I don't think the CIP budget has a officer position.
This has approving the budget for the City of Santa Rosa for fiscal year, comma, the capital improvement budget for fiscal year, and establishing reserves. So my presumption is that would also include the positions.
There is an additional resolution that includes the full-time equivalent positions. I believe it is on the next resolution that you're going to put a motion on the floor.
But wouldn't it have to be both the funding and the position?
Yes, my recommendation is that if you're going to eliminate the cut of the 9th officer, so keep the 9th officer, you would need to add that language in both the motion you just made and with respect to the next resolution as well.
Thank you.
Maybe we should just state that more clearly for the general public, that is our goal here. We want to add back that 9th officer. We have heard public safety loud and clear, and so that's the intention of that change to the motion. So we do have a motion and a second by Ms. McDonald.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show that resolution passes unanimously.
All right. Number 5 of 7. I will move waiving of the reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa amending the city salary plan and schedule by eliminating, reclassifying, or adding positions and authorizing the city manager to implement the changes included in the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, subject to the completion of the meet and confer process, while also removing the recommended 9th officer position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Rogers.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming? Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this passes unanimously.
All right, I'll move to waive reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa setting the stormwater utility budget and determining the amount of eligible funding that has been received from the Flood Control Zone 1A benefit assessment in fiscal year 2024-25 and based thereon setting the stormwater assessment per equivalent residential unit for the fiscal year 2025-26.
Second.
We have a motion and a second again by Ms. Rogers.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers? Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this resolution passes unanimously.
And then the final motion is I will move waiving reading of the text and adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Rosa amending the transaction and use tax implementation plan for gang prevention intervention services.
Second.
A motion and a second again by Ms. Rogers.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers?
Aye.
Councilmember Okrepke?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Banuelos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alvarez?
Aye.
Mayor Stapp?
Yes.
Let the record show this passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we will move ahead to our final, or to item 18, our final public comment on non-agenda matters. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any items not listed on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.